Do you need an external monitor for the Sony ZV-1, or any camera for that matter? I know what you're saying. Vic, the Sony ZV-1's got a flip out screen, man. Why would you want an external monitor, man? I want to save my money for a vlogging grip. Well, let's find out, do we actually need an external monitor for the Sony ZV-1, or any camera for that matter? My name is Vic Barry and we do all things filmmaking here, so for techniques, tips and thoughts, please consider hitting subscribe, especially if you find this video useful. Big thanks to AndyCinea for reaching out and sending me the AndyCinea A6 Plus external monitor. They're not paying me for a review, they're not paying me to say anything good or bad, so these are just some of my honest thoughts on the AndyCinea A6 Plus as an external monitor for the Sony ZV-1 or for any camera. Let's get this unboxed and set up and find out, do you really need an external monitor at all, even if it's incredibly well priced? Opening the box, we get a nice case that is absolutely jam-packed with accessories. You get a power supply, yes, a power supply, for free with the monitor. You get a micro HDMI cable, you get the mount, you get a sun visor complete with a Velcro mount for it, and you get the monitor as well. This is serious bang for your buck here. Now, I use an Atomos Shinobi in my day job and it's a really good monitor, but there's not a chance in hell you'd get any of these extras with it. You'd all have to pay for them as expensive extras, and this is not necessarily a cheap monitor at all. And that said, the Atomos does feel a little bit more solid and it does feel expensive, but my first thoughts here are, because the price difference is fairly substantial between the two, I'm not sure you're getting more bang for buck in this, unless there's a specific need for an Atomos, than the AndyCinea A6 Plus. Setup is quick and easy. Attach the included arm, screw in the monitor, and that's kind of basically it, and plug in the HDMI cable both into the monitor and into the camera. And keep in mind, micro HDMI, no matter where you buy them from, they're notoriously flimsy and fragile. They will break on a regular basis. Buy lots of micro HDMI cables if you're using Sony cameras. Other cameras may have slightly different. It could be a mini HDMI, it could be micro, or if you're really lucky, it'll be a full-size HDMI port on stuff like the GH5 or the Panasonic S1H. So yeah, keep that in mind. You'll also need a battery like the Sony NP-F battery, or it'll also take the Canon batteries. There's a dual battery system here, and if that doesn't work for you, you can just use the supplied power supplier, and if that doesn't work for you, you can also power it via USB-C. So the monitor itself is touchscreen and it's very, very responsive, so you can pinch in to zoom in or zoom out, and you can move around it. So if you want to really nail focus or see what's exactly going on in the shot, you can do all of that. You'll also get a ton of on-screen options, including flexible scopes, parades, focus peaking, volume meter, and lots more. There's a huge amount of options here, and many of these you would not expect on a monitor that's incredibly cheap. Picture quality is sharp, color accuracy seems to be decent, and speaking of color, you can also throw in an SD card with some LUTs so you can see what your finished video might look like. For me, it's not something I'm going to do, but at least it's a nice option to have. While the AndyCinea A6 Plus does not seem as sturdy as the Atomos, it is incredibly durable. I hate to say, sorry AndyCinea, I dropped this 3 times. One, it fell out of my hand. The other 2 times, I didn't have the cold shoe tightened enough and moving the camera, and it just fell. And yeah, there's actually a crack or a dent on top of it on the final one that fell last night. In fact, you can hear the fall here. That was from the Osmo Mobile 4 video. But it still works. It's incredibly durable. Every time it fell, I'm like, oh, it's bust. It's definitely gone. It has survived. Why would you use an external monitor anyway? The obvious one is most flip out or articulating screens are incredibly small. They're just tiny, and that's kind of fine if you're out and about and the camera's pretty close, but if you're in a kind of a talking head scenario like this, or depending on what type of video you're shooting, the bigger screen is always going to be a huge advantage. While the Sony ZV-1 is insane autofocus, it gets it wrong occasionally, but if you want to use manual focus, or maybe the camera that you're using doesn't have good autofocus or any kind of focus, then the focus peaking will ensure that you're nailing focus all the time. So that's one big thing, because let's face it, nobody wants to watch a blurry video, right? One of the big things for me with an external monitor is the size. You can see what's going on. So I can see here everything that's going on. I can see the lights there and whatever. That's fine. But how do I look? I'm not talking about my ravishing good looks. I'm talking about, is there dust here? Is the lav mic in shot? It's kind of down here. But is there dust? Is there ketchup on my mouth? Maybe there is. Is there a booger? Is there a booger there? Is there dirt in my eye? Is one of my eyes half closed? what's going on. So that's the thing, with a tiny flip out screen, you're not gonna see that. With a bigger monitor, I can go, yeah, my nose is clean, that's okay. Because if you shot an entire video and by the end of it you gone back through the footage and you're like, oh, like there's a stain, there's dirt, there's dust, there's boogers everywhere, you're probably not really wanting to go back and record a long video again, right? And if you do, which you should, you're probably not going to deliver it as well. Something like an external monitor, like the AndyCinea A6 Plus, for me at this price point is an absolute no-brainer. And speaking of no-brainers, there's a video up here that's going to teach you some awesome things about the Sony ZV-1. Check it out and I'll see you on the next episode of the vlog, and until then, don't stop fighting for yourself. Not a booger. No. Oh, that's just, what's that? Oh, it's a suitcase under my eye.